So we are in chapter 3, 31. Ye me matam idam nityam
Ye me matam idam nityam
anutishtanti manavaha
anunti shantin manavaha
shraddhavanto anasunyato
Shraddhavanta anyasyayanto
muchyante pi karmabhihi.
Muchyante karma bhahi.
karmabhihi.
Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from bondage of fruitive actions. So Karma Yoga is the name of this chapter. So executing the duties according to the injunctions and follow the teaching faithfully without envy. Okay, Raj, can you read the purport?
Yeah. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, become liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness.
So what is your understanding of this?
I think following Krishna's teachings, I think will liberate you from anything that come out of karma.
Yeah, with firm faith in the eternal injunctions, means rules of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from bondage of law of karma. What is law of karma?
I think there's always some consequence to every action you perform. So
Yeah, so even if you're unable to execute the orders, faith, but this is not like the Christian faith. Christians say, believe in Jesus and everything is taken care of. So this is not like blind belief, right? That is very, very blind in that you just believe and everything will be taken care of. No, not that kind of blind belief. Okay, let's go to the next verse.
Wait, Prabhu, I had a question.
Yeah.
But if even if you're like, let's say, ignorant of the law of karma, there's still no excuse, right? Because everyone's still accountable.
Yeah, so this is a controversial topic. People may say, I was ignorant. I did not know.
Yeah.
But then the question is, somebody asked this question to Prabhupada. He said that, but you should know. You should try to find out. So, you cannot say, oh, I didn't know that I should not cross the road when traffic is going. So if you cross the road when traffic is flowing, some car will come and hit you.
Yeah.
You cannot cross the road and put the blame on the driver.
Yeah.
So it's like that, almost like that.
Mm.
So the next immediate question is, why did you not find out? I know you don't know, but what stopped you from finding out? Right? That kind of comes with the biblical injunction.
Right.
Seek and you shall find.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't seek, then you will not find. So
Right.
we are obligated to seek that knowledge. So people cannot say, I didn't know and therefore I committed this. No, you will still be accounted. Maybe a little bit less because you did it out of ignorance.
Right.
But not 100% waived off, maybe 2% waived off. You are still responsible 98% for that, roughly.
Okay.
Right? Unknowingly, many people have committed crimes and they suffered
Oh,
from
yeah.
that throughout the history.
Yeah.
Ye tva etad abhyasyanto
Etvayetad abhyas tuyanto
nanu tishtanti me matam
nanu tishtanti
Stiti
me
me matam
matam
sarvajnana vimudamstan
sarvajnana vimudham sthan
vidhi nastana chetasah.
viddhi nastan
Vidinastana chetasaha.
saha.
But those who out of envy disregard those teachings and do not follow them regularly are considered to be bereft of knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors. So this is the answer for Aryan's question. Part B. Part A is ignorant. Part B is you disregard the teachings.
Right.
Oh yeah, what does Krishna know? Or oh yeah, what does my guru know? Right? You disregard the teachings, then your knowledge gets stolen. It's called Maya Aparita Jnana. The knowledge gets stolen away because you're doing it out of foolishness, pride, envy, like that.
Right.
Okay, read the purport, Aryan.
The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paratma, and the Personality of Godhead, due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him.
Yeah. So there is no hope of perfection for life for the flaw of not being Krishna conscious. So just like you wake up, brush your teeth, have breakfast, lunch, dinner, like nobody's telling you, oh, you should have lunch, but you're still having it. Right? So same way, you have to be Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious means God conscious. God's name is Krishna. Right? The original name is Krishna. There are other names like Jehovah, Yahweh, like that. Different traditions have different names.
Yep.
But you are obligated to be Krishna conscious. Some or the other. Like even in the most primitive tribes, what do they do? Like in the Native American culture, they will erect a totem pole and start worshipping it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? In the very primitive African societies, they will create some structure and they'll go around it and sing some songs. I'm talking about not now. Now such culture don't exist anywhere, even in Africa.
Yeah.
Maybe you sing a song, hoo hoo ha ha, hoo hoo ha, hoo ha, like that, going around the structure, and then you're praying to it.
Right.
Nowadays, Africa is more advanced than many Western countries.
Oh, really?
From that perspective. We are talking about a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Right? So there is a flaw of not being God conscious.
Yeah.
Not blame God for not being God conscious and being ignorant. Oh God, what can I do? I didn't know. Then he will ask the question, why did you not find out? I sent so many people, sages and seers across centuries. Books are available. Now, like you don't even have to go anywhere. If you just Google and ask a question, right? There are so many from different religious traditions. They'll give you their answers. So you cannot blame God for not giving you anything. Right? People ask silly questions. Should I use toilet paper or not in Google? Believe it or not, there are questions like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then some intelligent man will write a blog on that. If you use toilet paper, you will eliminate 90% of the waste. If you use paper, you will eliminate 100% of the, sorry, if you use water, you use 100% of the waste.
Right.
Now even Costco started selling Bide. Bide means it will spray water from the back and clean your backside.
Yeah, yeah.
So information is available. It's just a click away. So you cannot say, oh, I didn't know that I have to wipe my backside and I'm stinking.
Right.
So it's like that. Very gross example, but you get the idea.
Yep.
Okay. Sadrisam chestate swasyaha
Sadrasam chestes swasyaha
prakriter jnanavanapi
Prakritirjnanavanapi
prakritim yanti bhutani
Kritim yanti bhutani
nigraha kim karishyati.
nigraham kim karishyati.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? So nature, right? So these three modes of nature, sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna. So whatever you acquire from these three gunas, you will act, right? So if you go to internet and just say three modes of material nature, right? So people much smarter than us have already put together these pictures. So these three modes, this is goodness, this is passion, this is ignorance. Ignorance is that purplish, blackish color. Goodness is that yellow, bright, pleasing color. And passion is that excitement color, red. So you and I are being pulled through these strings of goodness, passion, and ignorance. We are nothing but puppets in the natural cycle, these three modes of nature. So Krishna is asking, what can repression accomplish? If your predominant nature is mode of passion, you will gravitate towards finance professions, like buying land, selling land, buying stock, selling stock, because you're in that mode of passion. You cannot stop yourself. If you're in mode of good ignorance, you'll be attracted to, alcohol shops, marijuana shops. You cannot stop yourself. And if you're in the mode of goodness, you are attracted to scriptures, nice music, nice art. You cannot stop yourself. So everyone follows the nature that we acquire from the three modes. So therefore, what should we do? Should we, suppose if your predominant nature is mode of ignorance, should you stay there?
No.
So what should you do?
Tim, take up Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, take up some activity which will pull you out of mode of ignorance. Krishna consciousness happens to be a very scientifically architected process through chanting of the mantras, through fasting. Right now, we are doing Bhishma Pancha. These 5 days, many people in the temple are, now normally this month, many people did not eat grains, like they were doing Ekadasi. No grains, no beans, only quinoa, potato, like that. Last 5 days, even further cut down. No oil when you make the potato, eating mostly fruits and roots, like that. So Bhishma Panchak, it is further cut down, like that. Some people like by Ajay Pataka Swami in Mayapur in India, he's only taking fruit juices, right? And if you are like Dhruv Maharaj, you will only take oxygen. You will not even drink water or food, right? Dhruva is son of King Uttanapada. There's a huge story in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because of his austerity, there was like almost like a pralaya-like situation on earth, and devatas go to Brahma, and Brahma goes to Vishnu, and Vishnu comes and pacifies Dhruva because he was doing Ghor Tapasya.
Wow.
Right? So there are so many different processes given, and you have to take up those processes to get out of mode of ignorance, come to passion, get out of passion, come to goodness, and get out of goodness and come to pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is where you are totally Krishna conscious, totally God conscious. But the process is required. A mode of ignorance person, suddenly he cannot say, oh, I'm smoking marijuana, let me do yoga and get liberated. There's too many steps, right? Too many intermediate steps he has to cross. So that's why there is this process. When you chant the mantras, then you don't feel like, maybe smoking marijuana. Maybe you'll just smoke cigarettes. And after that, sometime you'll stop smoking cigarettes. Then you will come to, just eating normal food. And after that, you'll say, okay, I'll come out of normal food, and then I'll do some kind of austerity for spiritually potent days, like these 5 days of Bhishma Panchak. Right? Like you asked me a question today in Kitchen Aryan, oh, what should we do today? Right? So now you have come out of ignorance, you come out of passion, you have come to goodness. And that is a question for the people in the mode of goodness. Oh, so what should I do? I mean, this looks like a special 5 days. So what kind of diet should I follow? The person who is doing Dhammaradham, smoking marijuana, will not ask that question. He's not equipped, qualified to ask that question. Yeah. Okay, so Aryan, read the purport.
Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge, or by separating the soul from the body. There's many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, be inwardly or privately, are completely under particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage.
Yeah, pause there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
This is the most important point. If it is one point you should get from today's class, academically, one may be very learned. Right? You can read the Bhagavad Gita end to end, Srimad Bhagavatam end to end. But because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. So I know one person who read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, almost entire Srimad Bhagavatam. He has been coming to our temple for, 2003 onwards? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then recently somebody told me that he's still drinking. Why do you think that happened? After knowing all this knowledge, why do you think it's happening?
He's still associated with material.
No. That was not the answer. The answer is there in the highlighted text.
Oh.
He's very learned, but yet he can't let go of.
Yeah, that is true. Learn it doesn't mean that you are a practitioner, right? Like sometimes people do computer science from a top college like Carnegie Mellon. Then they join a company, they get promoted to be manager, director. They'll forget everything.
Yeah.
They'll only be doing people management. Right? So if you ask them data structures, if you ask them algorithms, they say, I don't know. You just ask, Suresh from my team. He knows all these things. So he's learned, but he's unable to get out of his nature. Therefore, he's in bondage. Why? Because of long association. This is not our first life. For millions of lifetimes, we have been going through this association with association with nature. And depending upon the mode that we are in, right? Depending upon the mode we are in, we will be stuck there. How can anybody stop us? But there is hope. Okay, continue reading. What is the hope?
Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or a transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya.
Yeah. I mean, all of the philosophy is there in those few sentences. So Krishna consciousness helps you get out. Therefore, without being fully Krishna conscious, one should not give up the occupational duties. Right? So you can say, oh, because now I'm surrendered to Krishna, I will not take care of my child. So if you are fully Krishna conscious, then you are at the soul platform, then somebody else will take care of your child on the planet. But until then, you have to take care of your child. So that's why yesterday, like we were talking in the car, Aryan, like once you get into this grihastha, there is no exit. You keep on taking care of this activity, that activity, that activity.
Yeah.
Until you come to pure Krishna consciousness, where you can say, okay, I'm on the soul platform. You are not my child. I'm not your father. You are not my husband. I'm not your wife. Right? In this way, you can get out. Until then, you are stuck in this. So this grihastha life, family life is like a grihamanda kupam. Prahlad Maharaj says, hitva tva papam grihamanda kupam. So it is like a dark well. Once you get stuck, you get stuck. So better if somebody is skillfully, if somebody is intelligent, he'll skillfully avoid all these activities of this material world. Right? So if you get married and you divorce, you get bad karma. But if you don't even get married, then there's no question of any karma. Right? But then if you don't get married and then you're attracted to somebody and then you do some hanky-panky, that is even worse.
Yeah.
That is even worse bad karma.
Right.
Right? So it's very dicey. It is like you are shown all these nice little laddus and gulab jamuns, but you're not supposed to eat them. You see the point? Everything is there in this world. But to what degree you get attracted to these activities is what you are judged upon. That is why there is this thing called free will. Like if you look at your right hand or left hand for women, there are some rekhas. Based on that, your life is decided. When you'll get married, when you'll have kid, when you'll have grandkids, when you will die. But doesn't mean that you have to follow those rekhas. You can surrender to Krishna and change the course of your destiny. So that is there your free will is. The framework is set. Right now, somebody is in Somalia, we are in America. So we were destined to be in America, so we are here. But then doesn't mean that we'll all go to hell. No, you can change your course of destiny through Krishna consciousness. This is what the biggest confusion is. Most people think if God is deciding everything predetermined, then what should I do? Or they say, no, God is not deciding, we are deciding everything. And then why are you not Jeff Bezos? Right? Or Bill Gates, or whoever your favorite business leader is. So we have to follow our framework when our course of life is set. But you can take an exit and get out of this cycle. So Krishna will create that exit on the highway if you follow his injunctions, the nice term that we read in the last verse. Injunction means rules. So most people get confused. Half the people will think there is no God, I decide everything. But then why can't you decide everything? Why can't you get what you want? You won't. The other half thinks God decides everything, therefore I will not do anything. Both are wrong. While the framework is there, by surrendering to God, you can change the course of the destiny. Right? So when you jump out of the window of a 15th floor, that is you're executing your free will. And when you land on the pavement and break your bones, that is your destiny. So who created your destiny? You create your destiny, right? By jumping out of the window.
Yeah.
You exercised your free will. You should not have jumped out of the window. You should have just taken the elevator, come down and chant Hare Krishna and become dear to Krishna.
Yeah.
So people say, I jump out of the window, now Krishna has to rescue me. What kind of
Right.
logic is that? Right? So Prabhupada's conclusion, better to be situated in one position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. This is where an acharya is important. You have to take Diksha, like I was talking to you, Sujana, a couple of weeks ago. Everybody has to basically approach a spiritual master. I approached mine in 2008 and I'm working under his superior training. You can take inferior training also. For example, the maid comes to your home to clean your house. You can ask the maid, hey maid, how do I change my destiny? She may not know how to spell destiny, but she'll say, okay, you do this, you do this. That is inferior training. Superior training means somebody who's more qualified than you should guide you. Or you go and ask your school teacher. The school teacher will say, I don't know, Baba. My boyfriend is abusing me. I don't know how to solve that problem. How can I solve your problem? So superior training, we have to work under that, and then we'll be freed from Krishna's Maya. So it's like very tricky, right? Krishna, he creates the world. He gives all the facilities. He will ask you to work in it. But if you deviate, you are on your own. You see the point?
Okay.
Yeah. If you deviate, you are on your own. Yeah, that's your trouble. And then the more you deviate, the more sins you commit, it will form like a curtain around you so that you cannot really understand what that reality is. Yesterday we were reading, day before yesterday, we were reading a purport where it says the curtain of Maya. So just like if you go to doctor's office, right? The doctor will say, okay, I'll want to do an examination. Please change into this gown. And then we'll put a curtain around. So the curtain is there. Now he cannot see you, you cannot see him. Same thing. This curtain of Maya is caused by your past sins, bad activities, rebellious activities against God. So who can remove that curtain? Again, Krishna, who put the curtain, will remove the curtain. But then he should have good enough reason to remove the curtain. That is, if you follow his injunctions, beautiful word, rules, then he will remove the curtain. Otherwise, he is not obligated. Srila Prabhupada uses this term elsewhere in one of the purports. God is not obligated to do what you want him to do. Right? So you have to be in his good books. That is what karma is, karma yoga. You have to do things that are favorable to Krishna, not against him. Actually, we came to this middle world because we have an attitude problem in the spiritual world. We fought with our father Krishna and we came here. So now let's rectify our rebellious attitude. Srila Prabhupada uses this term many times. Rebellious attitude. We rebelled against God. And if you don't fix yourself, he's not going to do anything. He'll just he'll put one more layer of curtain on you so that you can never understand him. And then you'll be taking on birth after birth after birth and never again liberated. I see right now, like, all these Hindu-Muslim riots that are happening. The Hindus say, oh, the Muslims came from Arab countries and they attacked our country and took over. And the Muslims said, oh, our forefathers came here. Now we belong to India, so we cannot go anywhere. So they're all tied up in that very tight mesh of karma. Same thing, like, the whites bought the African slaves to America. Now the slaves say we cannot go back because this is our country. Right? So we need equal rights. We need special privileges for us to, get education and blah, blah, blah. And you have all these different movements happening, Martin Luther King and so many things. Right? So this karma is now so tightly integrated. You cannot escape. There is no solution for Israel-Palestine problem. There is no solution for black-white problem in America. There is no solution for Kashmir problem in India. So tightly entrenched karma.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You were talking about deviating from the path. Does that necessarily mean like if you had the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, deviate, or does that mean like what do you exactly?
No, even basic rules, deviation, right? So
Mhm.
Krishna says that this is how you should do. This is how a mother should behave. This is how a man should behave. There are all rules, but who's following? Like, if you ask in a lot of divorce cases, ask the lady, "Oh, why are you divorcing your husband?" "Yeah, he doesn't take care of me." And then the judge will say, or a jury will say, "Why? What happened?" "Oh, all day he plays video games." Not that he's a bad guy, but he's just playing video games all day. Thanks to Xbox and PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
So who created the problem? Krishna didn't create the problem. We created that problem
Right.
by inventing all these nonsense gadgets, right? Like Harivilas Maharaj calls them weapons of mass distraction.
Well,
Yeah. Iraq was accused of having weapons of mass destruction. Worse than that is weapons of mass distraction, like video games, smartphones. Krishna didn't invent them. You invented them, and you are, causing the problem to yourself.
right.
So that's not God's problem. So it's like that. So we are creating our own misery. Right? Just 100 years ago, we didn't have all these things.
Yeah.
Last 100 years has been the century of destruction. We had other problems 100 years ago, but not this. And people may say, "Oh, our science has advanced so much." 1919, we had flu. 2019, we had corona. So what advancement has human being made?
Yeah.
Nothing. Then in America, 700,000 people died, and now 800,000 people died. So it is actually worse than we are going backwards in advancement.
Right.
Right? So if anybody dares to say that we are an advanced country, they should put their head in their toilet. Because it's a fallacy, right? It's a myth now. Because what advancement have we made in 1 century?
Yeah.
More people died of this pandemic. So our problems are not God's problems. We created them. So you go fix them. That will be Lord's position.
Yep.
Right. So there is a question here in the chat. Okay, Raj is saying you'll have to drop in 10 minutes. Yeah, that's fine, Raj. Indriya Sindriyartyarte.
Indriya Seyandriya Sate
Raga Dvesha Vyavastithau.
Raga Dvesha Vyasasyato
Tayornavasam agachet. Tauhi asya paripantinau.
Dohi Asya Paripantinahu.
There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to senses and their objects. So back to your question, Aryan. Principles, rules are there. One should not come under control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. So attachment is bad, aversion is also bad. If you say I hate movies, that is bad. If you say I love movies, that is also bad.
Wait, why is saying I hate movies bad?
Well, what is there to hate in a movie? You just don't watch it, that's it.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I thought you meant, okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there is nothing to hate or love. They're just things around you. The soul should have nothing to do with the things around us.
Okay.
Right? Because we are talking about self-realization. We are not talking about economic development here. Right? Because people want, Netflix wants you to love movies because it's a huge revenue model for them. So from an economic sense, they want you to do so many things which are nothing to do with the soul, right? For example, if you buy a home in Texas, taxes like 2.53% of the house value, 2.8%, almost 3%. So huge amount is collected by the state or the local county, and they're used for building roads and this and that, right? What are you going to do by hating them, or what are you going to do by loving them? It is what it is. Your focus should be on how to extricate, means remove the soul from material world.
Mhm.
You cannot love anything in this world. You cannot hate anything in this world. Of course, you'll have some natural love towards your parents, your kids, because they're objects of affection. But beyond that, our primary love should be towards Krishna. While taking care of your kids, you should love Krishna. And your kids should also be taught to love Krishna. Right? This is for parents. And same applies with husband, wife, uncles, aunts, whatever, parents. Okay, Sujana, please read the purport.
Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material engagements, but no one follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scripture. Does not become entangled by sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditional soul. If sex enjoyment is allowed under the guidance of mere desire. According to spiritual instruction, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationship with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed, otherwise they will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. As much as there
Okay.
is always a chance of an accident,
Yeah, then you can stop there.
although they may be
Yeah, you can stop there. I want to clarify some point here. So there'll be rules and regulations. Yeah. So limited sex for having kids. You should just practice them unattached once you are married. But because practice of sense gratification and regulations may also lead one to go astray. Right? So even under rules and regulations, somebody may go away from the path and go on the side road, for example. Therefore, you should be careful. Yes, senses are given. Senses require some engagement. Especially he's talking about here the sexual activity to have kids. But then a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. That should be condemned. That should be controlled. That is the key point he's making here. Otherwise, what will happen? On the path of self-realization, that becomes a stumbling block. Actually, that is the main stumbling block. That's why they say brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, even for grihasthas, sex is only for having kids, but otherwise that should be limited. So why are we having this propensity for enjoyment? Has been current for very, very long time owing to material association. Again, remember 2 verses ago he said, with long association, because this is not our first life. For millions of lifetimes, we are attached to these things. And that is continuing. At some point, you have to put a break. You have to cut it with a big scissors. Otherwise, it will just keep troubling you. And then again, we'll take birth. So because these are not the science of how to make money. These are the science of how to not be born again, how to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Right? So we want to be not born again. So this is a very important point here. No one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness. Yes, you should be detached, but doesn't mean that you should be detached from the process itself of getting liberated or attaining love of God. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on platform of Krishna consciousness, right? So yeah, like somebody comes and asks you, oh Prabhu, why are you not doing anything? I'm totally detached. Yeah, totally detached doesn't mean that you give up the process required to purify the soul. That process is still required. Yeah. So even a sannyasi who has given up everything still needs to preach this knowledge to other people. So that is his duty. So that duty still remains. That duty doesn't go away anywhere. So it's very tricky. Huh? You can see that everything is there. You can enjoy it, but there are consequences if you do it more than required according to the scriptures. It's like, you have everything attractive around you, but you should only consume it in a limited sense. Only just as required, not a bit more. Get the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is why having that brahmachari training is very essential for everybody. In the young, people who are like 120 years old, they should obtain that brahmachari training, ideally from the age of 5, if not at least from the age of 11, 12. Like historically, all the kings used to send their kids to ashrams, and then the sages used to train them, and they'll come back home at the age of 16, and then they'll continue their regular material duties.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't get training at a young age, later on, too many things will occupy your attention.
Yeah.
There'll be so many things. If you're a king, then you have to run the kingdom. If you're a businessman, you have to run your shop, right? If you're a farmer, you have to take care of the crops. So that window of training is usually when you are young.
Right.
You cannot say, oh, I'm 30 years old now, let me get brahmachari training. So this is the wrong time. Too late.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Dhananjay, who you were talking to, that white gentleman in the temple today.
Correct.
Yeah, he came and met Bhakti Vikas Maharaj in Charlotte 4 years ago.
Oh.
Right, I took him and Jaipal also to meet with Guru
really?
Maharaj.
Okay.
So Guru Maharaj said, I said, can he used to be called Daniel back then? Can Daniel join the Brahmachari ashram? So Maharaj smiled and said, maybe he's a little too old for that. Right, because you don't join Brahmachari ashram at the age of 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So that's why he's wearing that white and continuing that journey.
Right. Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
No, I think it makes sense for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of content in just 3 verses.
Yeah.
It's very, very tricky. Huh? Everything is there, but you have to be restrained in your dealings with the world. Then somebody may say, oh, then why did God create all this? Yeah, God also created poison. It doesn't mean that you'll go and drink poison. So there are injunctions that one has to follow.
And is like one of them is like because I know, is it like bad or anything? Because I remember I asked you a question, like people go and like, let's say, I don't know, stay in Vrindavan, right? In like Mayapur, but then like they don't come, well, I guess like they stay forever, right? But like you were saying, it's important to always preach.
Yeah, I mean, that's an advanced question. We are not there any close
Okay.
to that. But for people who are advanced, yes, they may stay in Mayapur for like few months to get some inspiration, but then again, have to go around the world and preach.
Okay.
Because what happens is when you're preaching, you're helping other souls. And also your degree of surrender and purification increases,
Okay.
because you have to deal with all kinds of people. when
Yeah,
they-
yeah.
Yesterday, somebody texted me from India and he said, I'm having these, sexual problems and this and that. So you have to be prepared for such gross questions.
Right.
All right. You cannot say, I won't deal with this fellow because he's nonsense.
Right.
Because he's asking for help. He's saying, I have these problems. How do I solve this?
Yep.
So it is better to stay within the society and preach within the cities, and or maybe live in the farms and preach there in the rural setting. The advantage of farms, that's what Guru Maharaj says, is that it will put you into mode of goodness.
Right. Yeah.
Cities will put you into mode of passion,
That makes sense.
right? So in the mode of goodness, you can progress faster.
But I think in general, living on a farm, you have way
Yeah.
less a material kind of set.
Yeah, it's because all you're seeing is plants, right?
right.
24 hours a day, you're seeing plants. Plants don't talk back. There is gentle breeze going on, right? Whereas in the city, then you are dealing with all these mode of passion topics. Oh, like today, as I was coming from temple, my friend offered a lift to my home. I said, I'll walk, it's close by. He said, no, I'll drop you. Then we got into the car and then he started talking about, hey, somebody bought this land, that price went up. Somebody bought this, he started a business. He has a $5 million home. So what happens, even though we came to the temple, we got out of the temple, still that mode of passion talk is still prevalent,
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
right? Whereas in the farm setting, oh, okay, oh, you have the 3,000 plants, I have 3,200 plants. So what, right? You're harvesting spinach, I'm harvesting broccoli.
Mhm.
So there is less mode of passion on a farm.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop there for today and we'll meet next week.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, but read these 3 verses. They're very interesting. Huh? It's like Krishna says there are rules, you have to follow them. And then you have to be regulated. Like just because somebody can have sex doesn't mean they'll have it unrestrictedly, only for having kids.
Right.
So a lot of interesting points he makes.
Okay. I read through it.
Okay. Talk to you later then. Hare Krishna.
Sure. Actually.